what we're going to do is we're going to go live here, and essentially you're going to get to watch us filming the podcast. This will stay up for about 12 hours, so midday tomorrow this will come down, and then on Thursday, when this has been edited and beautified, it'll go out to our podcast streaming services. So you can get them anywhere. You can tell Alexa to play Garage Chronicles podcast. You can get it on Apple's podcast. You can do on Spotify. You can get it wherever. You'll be able to listen to us there. So make sure to check us out. So we're going to go ahead and basically get started. So in 5, 4, 3. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending when and where you're listening to us. I'm Brandon.
I'm Kevin.
And thanks for listening to the Garage Chronicles podcast. We are on Instagram at Garage.Chronicles. We are supposed to be live on YouTube. We'll get that taken care of. But if you go to our website, GarageChronicles.com, there'll be a little tab there that you'll be able to come to all of our different social media aspects. We are currently live on Facebook. If you're listening to this through the podcast, obviously you're not live anymore. But if you subscribe to our live feeds, you'll get a notification. We're doing at least one, sometimes two. Like this week, for example, we're doing 2 live broadcasts, which will end up both being, like I said, uploaded on Thursday. Tomorrow, we're going to have the guys from Audi Club North America in with us. But tomorrow is today, if you're listening to us, depending when and where you're listening to us. But wanted to make sure to. But today we got.
Can we at least announce
Forsythe.
our guest? Yeah, Mike Forsythe. What's going on, Mike? How you doing?
Hey, what's up? Glad to be being with you guys.
So Mike's all the way down in the dirty, down in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yes.
So Mike is basically everything that every time that you've looked at a car and gone like, damn, that's sick, and it's either mildly, tweaked or heavily worked over. Mike somehow or another seems to have been involved in it, whether it be Vossen, Novatech,
yes.
Yeah, Vossen, Novatech. His background is huge. He's got a marketing footprint like nothing that you'd ever believe. So why don't we start out by Mike? Just why don't you introduce yourself and kind of what you've been up to and what you're up to at the moment?
Sure. Yeah, I think most people know me from the Lexus world. I'm a 24, 25-year Lexus owner from manual ES300 up until the LC today. Started one of the first clubs and websites, was involved in websites and forums like 15 years ago, right when everything was jumping off, and stayed persistent, and that opened doors in a couple ways. One was opening the doors to Vossen, which most people know me for. I was there 8.5 years, and now I'm doing my own consulting. So consult for many different brands. You mentioned a couple: Novatech North America, RSR. I'm doing some work with the ADV1, MW Wheels right now. Some local companies, Bucket Imports, and it's been interesting. I mean, like you said, one way or other, I'm just have my hands in kind of different areas.
Yeah, no, and hello there. So I've known you for a bit. Kind of like you said, Vossen's kind of where I started paying attention to you, I guess. Sam Dobbins in the Volkswagen world and all that kind of stuff. So kind of cross paths, and it's been good to keep in touch with you. But it's so interesting to watch your perspective on like the really nitty gritty of the inside of like the tuner, but more importantly, the world of wheels, whether it be sponsorships, whether it be the deals when you did, I know you worked with Work for a little bit. We worked with Work for Vossen, and
usually
there's
I
a lot
would know what he was going to say right now, but
yeah, I missed that. Sorry.
I think what he was talking about when you were working with Vossen.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So in case I'm back. Okay,
You're
great.
back.
So I'm back. Yeah. So just basically like I'm curious to have you tell kind of everybody, anyone that hasn't been following you on social media, like what is like the number one thing other than stop DMing me and saying that you want sponsorships, but what is like, what's the thing that when you go behind the scenes that, most people wouldn't understand, what it's like behind the veil?
Yeah, good question. I think one thing that I've learned over time, and I share with people, is really how small the industry is. You think that it's, it is millions of people in the automobile industry. but it seems to be, everybody's like 2 or 3 steps away where you can reach out to somebody that or somebody knows somebody, or somebody worked at another company. I don't think a lot of people on the outside really grasp that. And that's why it's so important to put your best foot forward and not to burn any bridges, and generally to be nice, because people know each other in the auto industry. And obviously, referrals go such a long way in any industry, but in the auto industry in particular, I would always say, people don't really realize how close like a lot of us are.
Yeah, and actually that's interesting. It's a great point. I've been to SEMA now, I don't know, 15, 16 years running.
We said 16 years, right? That was our number last year when we were picking up all our stuff. 16 years running.
Yeah, so 16 years running, and it's interesting how you can walk into this huge show. It's a mile across, a mile back, and somehow everyone still knows everybody, right? Like there's 300,000 people, but still, like I know, like, listen, I'm nobody, but I've been around long enough that I've made I've made friends, I've made buddies, whatever. That I know that when I'm walking around, I feel like if you kind of pull back the Zoom and you. Well, by the way, thanks Zoom for hosting.
Nice dad joke there, Brandon. I like it. It works.
If you zoom out the camera, you'd be like, "Oh, dude, like I will know nobody here." But still, somehow, and Kevin, you can attest to this. Walking around with me, somehow, every few steps, it's like, "Oh shit, what's up, man?" Like
it's funny that you brought it up, because I was thinking the exact same thing when Mike was saying that. Was all the times I've gone to SEMA and I didn't know all these people from all these different companies, and I'm walking around with Brandon, and just all of a sudden, like, hundreds of thousands of people there, whatever it is, but you stop at a booth and all of a sudden you're having a conversation, and then 2 minutes later it's like, oh, hey, you're here, good catching up with you, what's new, what's going on? And it's not even talking about auto industry half the time. We're just catching up and kind of shooting the shit and doing what we're doing right now, actually.
Yeah, and I mean, so if you go to SEMA and you're at if SEMA happens, and if there are any after parties, we'll see.
That's an interesting thought. And before we move on to that, Mike, any take from you on that one? Do you think it's going to happen, not going to happen?
Obviously, I had a conversation today with a very close friend, and where we are, it just seems to be circular, right? It's like, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. You're open, you're closed, you're open. I don't know. It's just really bad with just leadership across all boards. So I would initially have said, I think SEMA is not going to be open, but at this point, obviously we're open in Atlanta, we're open in Georgia. It's gonna happen. My prediction is, I think there's gonna be some changes. I think you're gonna see some companies pull out, because I've been 9 years, yeah, 9 years, and you can kind of see the changes already. Even at Boston, the Boston hasn't had a booth there. They had the wheel tree last year, but not an actual like physical booth, right? It's at the Mandarin Oriental or whatever it's called.
Yeah, they always set up something really cool in a penthouse, basically, of the Mandarin or a hotel.
So you got companies doing that, and then it's expensive. It's super expensive, and obviously you're looking at a return of investment. And I think one thing that's changed that every company I've talked to has said is, we're in the past, and this is before I think I saw it right before it started transitioning, but it used to be more of an actual, for business, to conduct business, for dealers to come, and now it seems to be more of a car show. I keep hearing people say, like, oh, everything is like, oh, check out the car, and it's like, that's technically not why we're here. We're here to sell product, set up dealers, talk to our distributors, conduct business. So I think Corona, as you can see from other companies, and they're shutting things down or closing it, it gives people an excuse to say, you know what, yeah, I'm not going to do it this year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. There's a lot of push and pull as far as like, how a SEMA in the reality of coronavirus might happen. And I'm a little bit more, I'm kind of the Timmy, the sky is falling kind of a guy. I think, like, I'm questioning whether it happens next year, right? Like that, like we are not anywhere near out of the weeds on this thing. And so, you look at the way that, the attendance not numbers, but the experience has been as far as like getting into and out of halls, right? Like the security backups.
He's breaking up a little bit, but I think, are you talking about how you're not talking about the numbers of attendance though, Brandon, right? You were talking
No,
about something
yeah,
else you broke up there.
sorry about that. Either Zoom and or my internet sucks, but either way, so you look at the security lines to get in and out of the halls as they're checking badges. Like, how does that work with social distancing?
Yeah,
right,
it's not possible.
with 6 feet.
Physically,
like, forget
not
about it.
possible. Yeah.
But I think last year, if we all remember, we had the unfortunate, shooting in Vegas, right? So that upped the security, but it seemed like it was there just to be there, right? I mean, they just shuffle people in.
Right.
So everybody was complaining, like, okay, it's one thing to make me wait in the line, and I feel really secure about going inside, but it's like, I'm just waiting in line, and they're just shuffling me in anyway. Right?
Yeah, Kevin and I get media badges, so we just get to walk right past everybody.
You usually get to cut in, basically. So it's like we'll just, yeah, exactly. So we'll just kind of be able to kind of go where we need to go, or hey, we need to stick around here for a little bit once it clears out to take photos, that type of stuff, since it's all media based. So we didn't have to put up with the lines, but I mean, just to Brandon's point, I don't know how it could happen if you were standing around. You're kind of stuck in that single file situation.
Logistically, I mean, to their credit, obviously every year they have to manage, hundreds of thousands of people. I couldn't even imagine trying to manage anything like that. They are expanding as well, right? So I don't know if it's completed, but they're building a huge wing that apparently is going to be as big as everything else.
Yeah, across the street where like SEMA Ignited used to be, right? That parking lot across the street.
So you got that, and then they're building the Boring Company, right? They're building the super fast train under SEMA as well.
Oh, wait, how far in are we that we brought up Elon Musk already?
Oh my God! Oh man,
how far in?
Dude, Mike. So it's one of the things about our podcast, and actually, since it's kind of like coronavirus. Like how can we have a conversation, not bring it up? It was that with Elon Musk or Tesla for the first 7 episodes.
It's like without fail, we can't make it more than 15 minutes into an episode without talking about Tesla or talking about Elon or something along those lines.
Love him or hate Tesla, whatever. I mean, obviously he's a mover and shaker, right? And
he is.
He's got his hands in a lot of things too. So.
Hey, he prides himself as a disruptor, and that's exactly what he's doing because we're talking about him. So props to you, Elon. I'm still waiting for my Roadster, as I keep saying every episode. If you're listening, waiting for my Roadster. It was due in December, $250K out the door. Elon, where's it at? But
well, speaking of disruptions, and Lexus actually. We're for once in the last few weeks, we're actually going to bring up some automotive news. And unfortunately, that automotive news is that the Lexus GS is no more. It's dead. They just announced it that they're wrapping up the run of the Lexus GX. Is one of my favorite cars ever, by the way.
Of all time, remember, absolutely. Yeah, I remember being in middle school wanting a GS 430, like the second gen GS 430.
Yep,
was like my dream car in 6th grade.
And then every tuner kids wanted to put a 2J in them. It's been forever. It's been a staple. It's gonna be really sad to see it go. I know you've had 4 or 5 of them, Mike.
Yeah. Personally, I've had 4, and obviously I've worked with Lexus on a couple as well. And I can't even look. That car changed my life, and that's what makes it really painful for me. People that aren't car people might not understand that, but like Kevin just stated, I still remember to this day vividly the first brochure, seeing it, and then seeing it in the street. It's like as vivid as is in my brain as today. And that's what got me. I had an ES before that, an SC before that, but it was the GS, the second generation, as you guys know, GS 400, 300, that created this huge enthusiast network of Lexus owners, which is obviously still a tiny fraternity compared to Audi or everything else. But to us, it was finally, really our own. And I could be glad to say I was part of that and getting things going in the Lexus community. Yeah, it's sad, right? I mean, without that car, I wouldn't be talking to you probably. I honestly could say I probably wouldn't be talking to you. That got me really into cars. I modified it. It's the first car I really got behind modifying. And I met so many people, friends I talk to this day. I've known them forever because of the GS. And I had a GS 400, fully modified, all JDM'd out, GS 430, then the 450H. And then my wife picked up a GS 350 F Sport and obviously they were all modified. So GSF was obviously the one that you know, oddly enough I have not gotten, but
You will, I'm sure.
I think now, yeah,
Hey,
you're like
even I'm watching the used market on those ones. Like if they hit a certain
yeah.
point, that might be a buy once I have
I
the
just
financial
don't
room
get
for it.
why can't I mean I know the answer, but I wish we could just get rid of the ES. Let us keep the GS. Take the ES. It's
Yeah,
fine.
take our second best seller behind the RX and just cut that one.
Take the
it's
ES.
funny.
No,
So
listen.
before we jumped on here, Brandon, I was on Autoblog just looking up like the what is it, the black F Sport black line that they announced, and then looking up the how the GS is dead after August of this year, and literally the first comment says, "Why can't you guys kill the ES and just push people into a GS instead?" Unfortunately, the world just doesn't work that way, as we know. It's unfortunate because it's a better car in every single measure, but it's just
it's really complicated because the Germans, and when I say Germans, I'm gonna say BMW and Mercedes, because Audi honestly wasn't really moving along in the 90s, right? So Lexus kind of went after them, and they didn't go with the same identical lineup, right? Because you had C class, E class, S class, right? And you had the 3, 5, 7. So Lexus came with the LS first, which took on the S class, and then you had the ES, which it was a tweener already, right? So you had a car that was priced like a 3 Series, but it was sized like an E class, and obviously it took off.
And it was a front-wheel drive car, which back then actually was kind of a positive, at least for people in maybe snowier climates or colder climates that didn't want a rear-wheel drive 3 Series. So it turned out to be kind of a cool alternative.
And this sounds crazy right now, but at that particular time in history, the ES wasn't bad of a drive regards to sport. Not the first generation, not the 250, the second generation.
Right. The 250, the 250s were interesting cars on their own, right? But I know you mentioned you had a first gen 300 5-speed, and that's crazy that I'm sure there's people listening right now that didn't even know you could get a second gen or first gen rather ES 300 and a 5-speed manual and with cloth interior maybe.
No, it actually has leather, sunroof. It's a really rare car. It had every option and just happened to be a manual. And
very cool.
Still you can put some work in it. But funny story, if you want to, I'll never forget going to Nopi, and Nopi used to be big back then. And,
wow, I haven't heard the word Nopi.
I haven't heard the word Nopi.
Wow,
yeah,
that's awesome. So wait, Nopi is what is it? The what? I don't even remember what it stands.
Yeah, what it stands for.
Yeah. You know what? I don't even remember either.
All right,
Kevin's gonna look it up. But
I'm gonna look it up if you want to. Yeah, jump into that story, Mike.
For the wives listening at home, Nopi was like the epitome of the tuner culture in like the 90s and before Fast and the Furious.
It was supposed to be in Myrtle Beach this year.
Yeah,
I didn't even know it was still happening.
So to make a long story short, I go there to buy a new shift knob for my ES, and I'll never forget the guy at the counter is literally arguing with me that there's no way my car's a manual, and I'm like, my car's outside. I just drove it here. He's like, you don't drive, and the Lexus doesn't make manuals, and you're just looking at this guy like, are you serious? Like right now? So I just said, can I just get
I'm pretty sure I know it's a manual. I just
it's a pretty big difference driving it. Right? Yeah, Nopi, imagine. Wow, yeah, that's still, today, it's funny how kids, it's like sneakers too. It's so easy. Just go on the internet, boom, click, and you can buy something. But back then, it's very hard to modify your vehicle and get information. And you actually had to talk to people in person. Imagine that.
Yeah, I remember going to tuner shops. Like when I was in high school, like literally we'd be done with class and we'd go to Dark Side, or we'd go to, one of these other, I can't remember a couple other names. Yeah, totally. We'd go and literally just be like looking at parts and looking at, hey, do you have like the new DC Sports header for my Integra or like whatever it was? And, you'd have to go. You couldn't buy stuff online, at least that I know.
And just like, and just like and I think maybe that's why we're so hard on like the kids, the air quotes kids nowadays, is because like back then we couldn't help but make mistakes. Nowadays, dude, like, come on, you could Photoshop any part onto any car. Like, how do you not know these wheels are going to look terrible? But I remember going like, so actually, I think it might have been Dark Side, but I remember when I had my Integra, and I think Fast and Furious had just come out, and I go, damn, like the sound of the blow-off valve is so dope. And I remember calling and being like, all right, my car isn't turbocharged. How can I make it sound like it has a blow-off valve? like what kind of like exhaust were kind of pop, but like back then you just didn't know. Like it wasn't like a thing. Like it was, but you know, like nowadays that question you'd probably get murdered for on any Facebook forum. But before we get too far, I want to make sure that I pour one out.
Before you do that, I'm trying really hard on the Nopi website, but it's literally just all pictures of girls in bikinis in front of grow dozers. So I'm trying, but
so while Kevin's dealing with his crisis down there, I am currently pouring one out from our friends over at Platform Beer Co. I'm drinking, actually, Kevin, I'm drinking Basic because your Cayman's in the shop, but I'm drinking Basic. It is
my Cayman's in the shop. It was in the shop. It's
back now.
It's
is
in my
it
garage.
Done already? Wow.
Yeah, they literally gave me a car for 4 hours to go put miles on just because I couldn't sit in their waiting room.
Oh, I didn't know. But so this one says on the can, this one usually has like every Platform Beer Co. can always has like it's piney and it's delicious and citrusy and full bodied and whatever. This just says beer in the moment. So it's basic. It's a lager. It's delicious. It's like your every basic beer ever. It's literally just a basic lager, and it's delicious. So, you know, on behalf of Garage Chronicles, Lexus GS, you are a beautiful machine. We love you. And what are you drinking on over there?
This is a rum punch from Belfast Estate, which is on the island of Dominica. So my mom, a lot of people follow. Is from a small island Caribbean nation called Dominica. So it's small. I don't even think you can buy it in the States. You know, we got to bring it up here. So it's a nice touch of rum and whatever they mix it with, some lime, I think.
So it's like 90% rum and 10% some
other
little flavorings and fruity stuff and all that good stuff.
Classic Caribbean. Yes, 90% rum.
That sounds about right, based on my knowledge of rum punch in the past.
What about you,
so
Kevin?
Today, I'll go into a slight story on this one because I was bored last week and I realized I had not put a keg in my kegerator for 12 months, which is insane. I don't know why I have a kegerator if I'm not putting kegs in it. So I called my local Total Wine, Bevmo, whatever you want to call it, store, and they said, hey, we can't actually get kegs right now. Our distributors aren't sending us kegs. So being the local business supporter that I am, I called my good friends over at Mirror Twin Brewing right down the street, which used to be my Friday after school hangout, as I would call it, and said, hey, can you hook me up with a keg? And they said, absolutely. So shout out to Mirror Twin Brewing, Lexington, Kentucky. And I am drinking on their Citronomical, which is basically their most deaf IPA is what they call it, with some added citrus flavors in it. It's fantastic beer. It's even better on tap.
Is that basic? That's coming straight out. That's out of your kegerator. So when I come down,
out of the keg.
Got it. Nice.
When you come down, you can have some if there's still anything left, but there might be a new keg on by the time you come down.
Cheers, gentlemen, to the Lexus GS.
Cheers.
To the GS, and hopefully to me getting a GSF one day.
So, Mike, what is the best generation of the Lexus GS?
Wow, that's
a hard answer.
It
is very tough. Yeah, I know. Initially, I'm like, oh, I know it, and I'm like, nope, I don't. I have to think about it.
I have to answer it two different ways. The best GS by far is the current one. People do not understand how good this car is. Even a base GS. Not even an F Sport, even a base GS. So it has its own platform. A lot of people don't know that either. It doesn't share a platform. It has its own platform, which is very expensive. And the driving position, the steering feel, the brakes. I mean, as soon as you start driving this car, you realize it's just a hoot to drive. So when you step up to the F Sport, you actually get a couple things that people don't know. Obviously, two-piece brakes, which is pretty rare. That's not in a non-exotic car, right? And a revised suspension. Ours had even optional rear steer. And I mean, I'll say it like this. We have an ESF Sport now, and we had a GSF Sport. They're both loaded. And no disrespect to the ES, but my wife she couldn't get me out her car. It was just any reason to go to the grocery store or whatever. I'm taking the long way. I'm just taking 2 hours to get some milk.
Right.
The ES is parked. It's a great car. It is by far the best ES in history, and it's parked. And then you get to the GSF, right? And not everything is about numbers, so I understand it's severely underpowered compared to an M5 or a E63S, obviously. I mean, severely underpowered. But this platform and this 5.0 V8, so you're at what 470 horsepower or so, and about 390 pounds of torque.
And you get to cruise in your 5.0. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And you get, and it sounds like a old school, muscle car. In
It's a
comparison.
fantastic engine. That 5-liter is amazing.
So,
it really is.
Honestly, driving wise, to me, it's as good as a car as you get. The interior is absolutely fabulous. There's more than enough space for everybody. I mean, the F Sport has 16-way seats. The F has seats. You don't even need to move them. You just fit in the car. So yeah, it's sad that people just didn't give it a chance. And part of it is people, the dealers or the salespeople would rather push the ES. It's an easier sell. It's bigger. It's cheaper. That sort of thing. SUV culture, it's just, you can fit more people in it. Just buy it.
Well, Lexus does have like 17 SUVs right now, if I just counted correctly on their website.
Yeah, so, but impact.
Listen, how do you blame them for it though, right? Like,
no, you can't, and obviously it's only 8 to be fair. But if you're counting the hybrids,
fucking 8.
No, it's not, because they're counting the hybrids as different ones.
It's what,
so it's
the
1,
UX,
2,
the UX, the NX, the RX, the GX,
and the LX.
LX. 5.
Yep.
Damn, that's still a lot.
Yeah.
That's still a lot.
Well, this is the funny thing. I mean, back when Lexus had 3, they had an RX, the GX, and the LX, and I remember them getting bashed to death because people were like, "Wow, all these SUVs, this is stupid. All these SUVs." And you look today, and I think Mercedes has like 7 or 8.
Yeah, and then they've got all the coupes and all that stuff, so they probably have like 14 realistically. But yeah, they've definitely got more than Lexus does at this point.
It's where the market went. But I mean, to close it out on, obviously I have a relationship with Lexus. I can't, I would never throw anybody under the bus. My advice would be not just to them, but to any brand, because Kia Stinger obviously is having some trouble selling, right? You guys are making these fantastic cars, and I know you're training, your salespeople. Maybe you create a separate sales force, and all they do, these are your enthusiasts in the company, and they are the ones that are enthused about a GS, and they're much more apt to sell that car. They know about it. They'll love talking about it, compared to just the average salesperson that's just going to say, "Oh, you can get a white on beige GS for, this price or RX."
We have 19 of them in stock.
Yeah, or we have 24 champagne on beige ones, if that's more your thing.
The GS is a car that needs somebody behind it to push it.
Well, yeah, I almost wonder how many people, went to a Lexus dealership in the past 5 or 7 years and, hey, I'm looking for a, kind of a mid-sized sedan. I might want sporty, I might want this, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, "Oh, ES350, here's the perfect car for you," and like just passed up the GS entirely.
I got just the one for you.
Knew about it, I got just the one for you. Follow me.
Because we all know that, most car buyers aren't enthusiasts, right? We're a tiny bucket, and a car enthusiast too already has your mind made up. We're not really going to switch around. We kind of already know what we want. We might drive something else, but we kind of.
And most of us are going to buy it pre-owned.
Well, and that's a big problem though too, and that's why like the Stinger is not doing well as an example, because people were like, "Yeah, it's got a manual. Yeah, it's a 2-liter turbo or a 3.3 V6 twin turbo, but I can't afford it new, so I'm going to buy it on the used market instead." They don't sell, and then they stop making the car. I mean, it's happened with so many other vehicles.
Right, because the OEM, obviously, it's about selling a new car, not a used one, and Kia's problem is now compounded by the Telluride. It's the same price, and of course, 99% of the people are going to look at this big old SUV and say, "Well, I can get this big thing for the same price."
Right. I'd even throw the Genesis G70 in there too, because they're comparably priced, and to me, that's the buy. I mean, I think that's one of the best looking cars on the market, new cars on the market right now, and I think the value that you get in it, in terms of if you pick the right spec, like the 3.3 Premier or whatever it is, with the twin turbo V6, it's a great car for sub $50,000. I don't really
Kevin
see you
loves
getting
the
much better.
G70. We both like the G70. Kevin's like obsessed with it though.
I
When we were at the Chicago Auto Show, we walked by it. He just he got real. But wait, Mike, we never locked you down on what. So which is the best generation?
Yeah, by far the best GS is the current GS. The most impactful though was the second generation.
Second gen. Yep, absolutely.
And if I could go back in time, you know, I would have taken that second gen and just try to take that into the third and into the fourth, you know. And
it's kind of funny on the third gens, they kind of like never really made much of a splash and kind of stayed off the radar. I saw a couple like really well modded ones. I think it was 5-axis back then. Like at SEMA was doing some cool stuff with those. Like Brandon, you and I drove, they had like the Lexus Experience thing at SEMA that year.
yes.
And we were driving like IS 350s and ISFs around their little track thing. And they had like, you could do the 5-axis GS, I think it was, on like a racing sim or on a dyno or something along those lines. But like
it was like the first activation that you would see would be the ISF on the dyno.
Yep.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Yeah, that was I remember that very well.
Yeah, but it's weird. It's like that third gen car just kind of fell off the map. It never really, you know, I don't see many of them, you know. They
just
don't
on the way to the studio, I was pulling into to whatever that, I'm not even gonna say their name because it took too long, but a fast food place it's not quite fast food, it's like a fast casual, but it's delicious. I'm not gonna mention them though, fuck them. They and I pulled up next to a third gen like maroon GS, and I knew we were gonna talk about the GS because I knew Mike was gonna be on. And I was like, dude, this is a sign, you know? And I know everyone that I've ever talked to that had any GS loved it, absolutely loved it. And I think the GS probably is the heart of the Lexus enthusiast community. I feel like everybody that has like a modded IS wanted a GS at some point.
Yeah, it is. And I saw the article talk about, you know, sales, and, you know, that car is kind of like the heart and soul for a lot of us and a lot of people. And they're going to want an equivalent platform, which means they're going to go to a BMW, or they're going to now, you know, really consider an Audi, obviously. And even Genesis now has, right, the G80 is new. So yeah, it leaves a gaping hole. The ES, trust me, we have one. It's loaded. It is mind-blowingly so good for an ES, but it doesn't push the passion knob. Right?
It's not engaging.
The ES is basically a Camry, right?
I think it's basically an Avalon, right?
Yes.
Technically, it's the Avalon platform. They're built right up the road here. Like literally, I can see the factory from my window.
And compared to my first generation ES, and we have this new one, it's stunning. I mean, honestly, when you look at it, and you're just kind of stunned. We all know the ES before. I think it was made fun of when Audi made the commercial with what's the guy, Jason Statham, right? And he saw the Lexus, and he was just like, oh, right. So that's what people's image of this car is, right? Let's be honest. So you have this new ES. It's superb. It drives better than ever. It's sportier than ever. Has red leather option, you know. But it's still
you can get all-wheel drive on them now too, I think, right? Or is that coming?
Yet. The Camry and Avalon did get that option this year, which means I'm going to make the assumption that it's coming to.
It probably is, especially if they're dropping the GS. I'd imagine that they're gonna sell quite a few all-wheel drive ESs to kind of fill that cold weather market.
But you know, you look at the numbers. So I'm a numbers guy. I follow numbers. It's helped me actually in a lot of the different companies that I help, because I can explain to them. A lot of companies ask me, hey, should we make parts for this car? What do you think? Whatever. And I said, I look at the trends and I'm like, no fucking way, nobody's buying this car. Excuse my language. You can't deny that an ES, even today where sedans are dying, you know, they sell $5,000 a month, right? No questions asked. No questions asked. About $4,000 to $5,000 a month. And GS had dwindled down to about $500 a month, right? So you have to, even from a business standpoint, you're like, wow, you know, it's tough. But again, that 500, the passion and the enthusiasts and the people that buy them are just a completely different breed. And they're the ones that go to events and go to car shows and spread the word about how good their car is. And this is amazing, you know? So
I still remember on that 5-liter and how good it is, but I had a Mark II Jetta with a VR6 swap that was a piece of shit. It was an absolute pile of garbage. And I finally sold it. This guy flew down from like Minnesota when I lived in DC, and he drove it back. He's the bravest person I've ever met driving a swap sight unseen car, like 1,000 miles, wherever it was. I told my fiance, I'm not going to go buy a car. I'm going to kind of wait and sit on it. And for some reason, I caught wind of an ISF with like 20,000 miles at a local dealership. And we literally went from dropping off the Jetta and me the cash to, with cash in my pocket, going to test drive the ISF and then trying to buy it. It was that good. So literally, like earlier in the morning, I'm not going to buy a car for a while. I'll put this in the bank.
Right.
We'll figure out what I want. And I drove it and I'm like, yep, I got to have that thing. It's fucking awesome. It's a great car. I think it was really underrated. Yeah.
The ISF was a product of love, right? I mean, for those that quickly make a story, it was a Skunkworks product. It was not intended to actually be a product. The LFA was going to be the first F. And here it comes. Lexus saw it, they put the big 5.0 in it. They loved it so much, let's build this car. And it has such a cult following today, right? So they start, it's a production of 2008 to 2014. And these guys are some of the funniest guys and girls. They love the car. They love the ISF. There's no new ISF. So that value is held pretty solid, right?
They've literally been 28 grand for the last like 7 years.
It doesn't matter the mileage anymore, right?
Shout out to Harry Kong, by the way.
Oh yeah, Harry.
Shout out to Harry with his ISF.
and he's he's a great guy. There's a couple of things, he's a great ISF owner, and he's just a chill guy. Unfortunately, there seems to be quite a few that I think they think the ISF is, I don't know, a Ferrari or something. I can't quite figure it out, but it's just like, guys, just enjoy your car, whatever. It had its time, though, You picked it up. I'm very happy for you, but let's kind of chill out.
Right. I can't remember why this came up, but it was probably like 2 weeks ago. I have a friend who was an E92 M3, and he always kind of boasts about like how great of a car it was. And I mentioned that I drove that ISF back then and how much I liked it compared to an E90 M3. And I pulled up like a car and driver comparison test, and it was the E90 M3, the ISF, and whatever Mercedes, I don't know, C63, I guess, like an 08 C63. And they said that the Lexus had the best transmission of the three. The Beamer was a stick, and the Mercedes was that, what do they call it? The AMG,
or whatever,
S-Matic, or, it was like the
bullshit
special.
Never any
AMG
good,
generation.
yeah.
But that 8-speed in that ISF, which then moved into the next generation IS350s only, which was an awesome touch on that car too. It's just crazy to think that like a car review is going to say, yeah, this IS automatic is better than a 6-speed manual BMW at that time.
Well, we've talked about this actually, Kevin, and you and I have talked about this on the podcast before, that not all manual transmissions are built the same.
Yeah, but an E90 M3 is a good manual, though.
No, I understand that, but just because it's a manual doesn't mean it's going to be better than an automatic, right? Like there are obviously.
But in this case, like I would have put money on it's better than rather. But after driving them, I would tend to agree. I think it was a good setup. Mike, I know you mentioned the LFA. Did you ever get a chance to drive one?
Yes, I've been fortunate enough to drive one, and better than that, I was invited to an experience at Homestead, and Scott Pruitt got me up to, I think, 160 or so.
Very nice.
And then we drove the ISF afterwards, and that really just changed your perception, right, of why this car was so expensive, because the LFA was just flat. I didn't even think I needed seatbelts on. That's how flat this car handled, and the ISF, which at that time was a pretty damn good handling car, just felt like a Cadillac in comparison, And yes.
I'll raise my hand because I am also one of the lucky few that was able to drive an LFA.
No way, Kevin. Tell us all about it.
Instead of being at Homestead, it was at Laguna Seca of all places. Nice. So, woe is me that I basically ended up with an invite during Monterey Car Week to somebody that didn't want it, gave it away, and it was an invite to Lexus's special event of launching the LFA. So I think they said I was like one of 40 people that had driven the car or something like that at that point in time. And I got there, they served you a glass of champagne, and they gave you an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that was like the steering wheel and the drive modes and all that type of stuff, like what everything was. They're like, have you driven the track before? I was like, no. They're like, okay, jump in with the race driver in ISF. He'll take you on a couple hot laps, and then you're going to follow him. Well, of course, he like destroys me, even though I'm in an LFA. He's a race driver. But I remember I'm sitting in the car, kind of nervous, like waiting, hands on the wheel, waiting to go. And the guy comes over, he's like, you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And he clicks it to like race, and he taps me on the shoulder, and he's all, have fun. And then takes off, and I'm like, all right, let's do this thing. The best car I've ever driven, hands down. It's amazing. absolutely amazing.
It's a car, obviously people saw the price and it's a Lexus or whatever, but they really didn't understand that there was only a handful of cars with carbon fiber construction to that as extensive as that car had. And obviously we saw, I think, some of the cool YouTube videos of Lexus or Toyota, made the machines to make their own carbon fiber. They didn't have that before.
Yeah, they made a loom specifically for
Yes.
that car that they ended up then using to make carbon for their other cars as well. But it was all
Exactly.
started around the LFA project, to my knowledge, anyways.
And I've been lucky enough to drive some aluminum-based exotics, and there is really a huge difference between carbon fiber constructed car and aluminum. So that car was fantastic. Obviously had the Nürburgring record for a brief period. We've seen the values go up, and to this day, I think it's one of the most talked about. Lexus is obviously the best Lexus ever made. So it did its job.
It's funny that when I Googled LFA Lexus, and the first, a lot of times it'll like suggest a question. It'll be like, oh, like if you Google Donald Trump, it'd be like, oh yeah, like whatever. Like you could pull, it'll give you the LFA. The first one is, how much is the LFA Lexus? And the second one is, why Lexus LFA is so expensive? And then number 3 was how many Lexus LFA in the world. Number 4 is the Lexus LFA worth the money? Like, so you're right. Like it ended up being all about the money, unfortunately, but there was so much to that car. Like I know Kevin and I got a chance to sit in one, like every dealer, it seems like held on to one. Yes. If you go to Santa Monica Lexus, the one in Columbus here, they still got, like, the owners still got it sitting because they know it's going to appreciate over time.
Well, I think that one, it was the dealership owner had it. I think it was his car tech. Yeah,
right. That's
but
what
it's sitting in the showroom, and it's gorgeous, and so you can still kind of see them. And I know that there was that Jalopnik article not terribly long ago. It was probably like a year ago though, about how there were still new ones sitting on lots basically. But I think a lot of them were that same.
Yeah, I mean, the dealers were a big part of the success of that car, and what they did was a lot of them are enthusiasts. They bought the car, but they just didn't title it. So, it was sitting there. Obviously, it drives floor room traffic, gets people talking. It's a car that can help sell a GS or IS. You can kind of relate the two.
Well, it can also help sell an LC, as you know, because that's actually, we walked in looking to go check out an LC that day, I think, Brandon, and we saw the LFA, went over and walked around that thing, checked it out first, and then ended up sitting in the LC5. Yeah,
we were so close to buying the LC until we saw the LFA, and they're like, I guess we're gonna have to keep on saving that money.
We got to keep doing podcasts, man. I mean, it's like this.
You got to monetize
that
shit. So speaking of monetization, Mike, talk to us about sponsorships.
Man, great segue.
Your favorite question.
Your favorite subject, yeah.
Well, I joke about it, and it's a couple things I'll say. It goes back to what I said originally about the auto industry is small. So we get a lot of the same people reaching out to us, and when I say us, I mean the industry. And either it's a very poor proposal to see, or it's somebody decent, and then you make a phone call or two, a referral, and see how solid this person is. I am 100% for a sponsorship program or a brand ambassador program, which I prefer to call them, because it does open doors and help you work with people that maybe it's a traditional outlet, quite frankly, the influencer program. A lot of these people's touch is a lot more effective than maybe a ad in a magazine or even doing a Instagram post, whatever. These people are trustworthy. You're hoping that's what you're looking for, and they have a solid base where people believe their opinions, and it's a good opportunity to put your product on their vehicle. So unfortunately, that seems to be getting rarer and rarer. But it goes to what you said earlier, which is a little odd because there's never been more information out there. But unfortunately, everybody's just complaining about the sense of entitlement that people are getting and the lack of effort being put into these sponsorships. I never was actually sponsored until I got in the industry. I didn't even know it was something that people applied for. I bought all my parts, and actually, what helped me probably got into the industry. And one of the stories is I called Jav I didn't know him, but I knew him from the forums and posting. And I was throwing all these car meets, and I would ask him to send stuff, and he would send it, you know, whether it was brochures or support or whatever, things to pass out to the people that attended the meets. What this created was he saw me as not somebody trying to just ask for something from him. You know, I'm providing for the company. And I think to this day, people have that completely backwards. It's not about what the
give me something so I can give you something back.
You know, they say partner, and then you look and like, look, this is a multi-billion-dollar company. You have 200 followers. How is this a partnership? You know, exactly. Let's not use that word partner.
Hey, dude, it's 194, but I'm proud of every single one of them.
It's growing.
I earned all 194 of those followers.
They are
sir.
Organic. I'm proud of every single one of them.
And, you know, we all got to start one follower. So I'm not knocking that, but I do have a problem when people don't put any effort and they say, literally, you've seen some of the messages of it. It's literally like, how do I get a sponsorship? Are y'all sponsoring? Sponsor is spelled with a C. Shout out to Are You Sponsored on Instagram. They post some hilarious sponsorship. I'm on there all the time reading it.
I'm grabbing that one right now for sure.
Oh, yeah. Are You Sponsored?
I think
hilarious.
Is it R as in the letter
R,
R,
the letter,
or is it
the letter R, the letter
U? So you see just how bad, and, you know, they don't really put anybody's names out there, you know, it's all like that. And you just read some of this stuff and you're like, and when I see it, I'm like, yes, this is exactly, and this is industry wide, right? So I think that obviously it's a great part of the business. I've met so many people, I've helped multiple people have helped me, it bridges gaps. But as an example, you know, when I have asked for to work with somebody, I never approached that guy and said, hey, you want wheels for your car or your wheels for your business or whatever, let's go. You know, I would literally send like a 4 or 5 page proposal explaining who I am and what the company does and how this can benefit you.
Well, I think that's a big difference. It goes back to the entitlement piece you sent. You know, people just hit you in the DM and go, hey, I'm looking for a set of wheels. Like, can I get a sponsorship? It's like, no, that'd be like going on Shark Tank and not having a business plan. You know, you got to put something together. Like, show me what the return on investment is if I do give you a set of wheels or give you a discount on a set of wheels. Like, what's in it for me?
Here's the thing is that my car might be stock right now, but if you give me a set of wheels, then it'll have a set of wheels.
And I got that Acura on clearance, so
boom. Oof. No, but yeah, no, I think you might tell the exact same story that every chick on every dating website would probably tell, right? It's just scrubs, right? People being like, yo, let me holla at you. Well, what's your fucking credit score? Let's talk about that.
And if you're going to start off as a scrub, right? I've worked with people that started off as a scrub.
Listen, and I'll be the first person to cop to it. I'm sure if Harry's listening, if any, you know, like when, especially as like a kid, right? Like kid is anyone that's less than like adult age, right? You know, like you can be a 22-year-old kid easy, right? But as a kid, I was like, oh, dude, you know, like I got this thing going. Like I want to talk to these people. If I talk to enough people, like I fake it till you make it, and you know, I can parlay that opportunity into that, and like I know that I'm going to work real hard, and then I can post. Well, you know, like I understand where people come from because I was at one point I was that person, right? And I'm now at the point where I go, dude, like I don't even, not only do I not have like the followers, but I don't even like have the interest in like building that, right? Like I don't even know how I could provide you with value, right? Listen, I'd love to build a relationship and like, you know, and to capstone that with whatever, like, you know, like a give and a take, but like, you know, I got nothing for you, you know, like all I got is like, yeah, like, I got a station wagon, I got a little Boxster, but like my Boxster, like I'll talk to people, but I can, at the end of the day, like I could do a review video, whatever, but like, you know, there are people out there, dude, like every single chick has like 1 million followers. every single person that comes on this show has more followers than we do, right? Like it's insane, like how easy it is, because there's nobody going like, hey bro, like dude, that's not it. Like that's not the way to do it. Like chill. Like
to be fair, Brandon, when you were doing it, it wasn't just sliding into someone's DMs though. Like you were making phone calls and you were sending emails and like finding out who was who. Like it was a little bit more work. Now it's literally like, I'm gonna hit like the Vossen Instagram and like DM, like, yo, let me get a sponsorship. Let me get a free set of those wheels. Like,
yeah, but that's not. Those people don't expect that to work though.
Oh, they do.
I think they do. And I think Mike would be able to tell us that for sure. People think, yeah.
And it's not. I manage multiple accounts for multiple brands, and it's every last one. And I'm talking about they want $200,000-$300,000 worth of parts down to a free oil change. Like it's really crazy.
I would love a free oil change, to be honest.
Dude, I just paid way too much for an oil change today. Oh, Porsche dealership. Oh no.
And companies again are looking to work with good people, but and there's another thing too. I think people have relied on follower count and likes to just be their sole reason to work with them. And if you know better, that's not the only reason to work with somebody, because you could have 100,000 people follow you and they're 8-year-old kids. And you're like, well, they're not buying anything.
And zero of them give a shit about what you have to say.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
And to the brand ambassador point too, is it somebody that you actually want pushing your product, or is it a total douchebag on Instagram that isn't representing it the way you'd want to, or is saying things that aren't in line with the company or whatever else is going on? So there's that piece too.
It does come into play. I've seen people complain about that, where because we have some private groups where a lot of us talk. A lot of people don't know that they're private groups where a lot of us in the industry talk together and we talk about things of this nature. And there was a couple guys that got upset because they were making some personal opinions and the company had pulled sponsorship from them, and they got irate, with the whole America thing and First Amendment thing, yada, yada. And, I get that. But, if LeBron James or Michael Jordan was doing Gatorade, Michael Jordan can also be smoking weed, with Dennis Rodman at the time. Gatorade would have pulled the contract.
Comes with the territory, right? He's not gonna be on the Wheaties box if he's blazing a blunt with
if he's
with
also
Rodman,
smoking
right?
Wheaties.
Now
dude, dad jokes number 2 tonight. Usually it's me, and now you're on them today. This is bizarre.
Now if Jordan is like doing some advertising for Swisher Sweets, yeah, you can smoke all the weed you want. So I think that is part of it, and I tell people that I know we kind of live in an era where people think you can say and do whatever you want, and that's the coolest thing. You can dress however you want, and that's the coolest thing. And look, it's still traditional in a lot of ways, and you do have to kind of watch what you say and what you do. And it's important because a company, you are kind of representing them. And especially if you get into like high-end companies, it's like you have to be really careful with what you're saying and what you're doing, because they don't to be more than that, they don't want to be liable for anything you've done or said. And next thing you know, they're coming after the company because you're related to them.
Just go ask, what is it, Kyle Larson, the NASCAR driver?
Yeah.
I was gonna say
who wasn't even racing in it was a sim race, and he drops the N-bomb, and I think he's not black, right? Because it's NASCAR. There's no way he's black.
Wow. I might want to cut that one, Brandon. That was live.
Has that ever happened? Has there ever been a black NASCAR driver?
I will look at that.
Bubba Wallace is pretty popular, and he actually got fired. Not fired. He lost a sponsor actually 2 weeks before. It's interesting. So Bubba Wallace, he's a really good driver, and the guy hit him in the game, which was like an illegal move, and he got upset and kind of just said, forget this game. Believe it or not, some like low-level sponsor made this long statement and pulled out, we don't like quitters, and it was just like, bro, it's a video game. And,
well, yeah, calm down.
He did get ran into. He was like, I can't. So it actually caused a controversy even 2 weeks before that. But obviously, he was much smaller than dropping the N-bomb on
sim race,
yeah, on the sim race. I was gonna say, the right now Corona beer and coronavirus, we always said there's no such thing as bad publicity. I think right now is the case in point against that for Corona beer, unfortunately.
I don't know, dude. I don't know if I believe it. I know people I know like it's like a story out there that people aren't buying Corona beer. I don't know if I believe it. I've seen more Corona beer, like even just in like shits, like people that are like, yeah, look Corona, like people that are like joking, people that never drink Corona. I don't know if I believe that it's actually hurting their sales. I think that might be like a total bullshit thing because
it may have like at the very beginning as an example. It's possible, but it's
listen,
just funny because it's one of those.
All the yeehaws that were like, I don't trust Corona.
So you're saying that's why I saw Corona on every shelf when all the other beer was empty?
Those people don't drink Corona. Let's be honest in the first place, right? Like it's like they're more into. Speaking of, I'd like to thank again Platform Beer Co. for their basic brew. Oh, listen, while we're on the subject of sponsors, I want to make sure to give a quick shout out to GripMat. GripMat, I don't know if you ever had a chance to come across the company, but I'm going to hold it up here for anybody watching us live. GripMat is it's like this multi-purpose non-slip tool mat. But basically, like it was originally designed. The guy was on Shark Tank. He was actually one of our guests. And by the way, the most listened to podcast we've ever had. Tom was here, and he's actually based here in Columbus. He got a deal on Shark Tank, but it's this tool mat it's awesome. So I can't show you on the camera, but we put all of our stuff on grip mats. Like my beer right now is on a grip mat, so that way when I put it down, it doesn't go chink. I use it for car detailing, but they are awesome. They've been really, really early supporters of the show. If you do anything with tools at all, even if you are painting, like there's really the uses for it are limitless. It's GripMat, GRYPMAT.com. If you go to gripmat.com and you use the promo code Garage Chronicles, you're going to save 10%. And like we've said since the beginning of the Rona, they're going to get it to you way quicker than Amazon's going to. And you're going to save that 10%. And I know they'd appreciate it. So it's also at GripMat, but make sure you use the Y. I don't know what GripMat with an I is, but it's knockoff. It's bougie.
We don't care. We don't want GripMat with an I. We like our GripMats with a Y. Thank you very much.
But so that was our little sponsors pitch. But seriously, like to go back to what you're saying, like I think you're totally right in that there are right partnerships, there are wrong partnerships. But at the end of the day, like really, it's all about like building value, right? Like how is it gonna if Mike's going to hook you up with a set of wheels. By the way, it's never Mike, right? Like Mike's got to rationalize it to somebody, right? Like Mike doesn't go into his garage and be like, oh yeah, hold on.
Just let me check the inventory up here real quick. Yep. I got that one. We're good. Perfect. No size, color, offset. We're all good. We'll send it right out tomorrow. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, like, listen, Mike might be able to put you on the inside track, whatever it is. But like at the end of the day, it's Mike's job to make sure that those advertising dollars are being spent wisely. So if you or me or whoever listening isn't able to take that sponsorship money and show ROI, return on investment, then it's making him look like a chump. So even if he is a buddy, like, why are you gonna fuck him like that, right? Like it's all about just making sure if everybody's taking care of everybody, then everybody's taken care of.
Did you just drop an ELE? Everybody love everybody?
Everybody love everybody.
Mike, do you know that reference? You're laughing, so I feel like you know that reference.
No, ELE for me, cool. He's Extinction Level Event. That was a
Busta Rhymes album. Solid Busta Rhymes album too. Yeah, no, ELE was from Semi-Pro with Will Ferrell. That was his like motto in that movie was everybody love everybody. ELE.
Oh, that's a great movie.
It's a great movie, an underrated film if you haven't seen it. Semi-Pro, solid flick for sure.
So, what wheel because you've been involved in the creation of just a plethora of different wheels, right? You've worked with a lot of the big names, whether it be inside, outside, whatever it is. Do you have a wheel that's like just like the Lexus GS is near and dear to your heart? Is there a wheel where you're just like, oh, like that, I love that, like my child? Not company. I mean, like a specific model, like a specific
like Brandon's would probably be like a BBSLM, is my guess, right, Brandon?
That's my child. Yeah, BBSLM. Yep. Like I'll put it in the family album.
Yeah, I'll say I had BBSs on my second gen GS, so I had RS2s on it. So
nice.
LMR. I think the LMR is definitely something I would love. I like the Junction Produce Scara collab that they had with VIP Modular, I believe, where they reinvented the Scara and which I thought I would never get, and they make them in big sizes, so it's something I'm thinking. And shout out to Vossen. I think they'd make a great the S2101. I actually probably need a bug jab and say, hey, just let me get one to hang on the wall or something, maybe out of it or something. But that's a really good wheel. And then the 80V1. I really like the new Flow Spec series and that's what I'm promoting now, and I'm hoping to put the 80V08 on my car, LC in a couple weeks.
So what's the LC been like? LC is a car that both Kevin and I love. So dope that
I've got a friend in town that has one too. That's actually had 2 sets of Austin wheels on it that I just found out. I didn't realize it was 2 different sets, but he had 2 sets of Austin wheels. He's got Amgain carbon fenders. He's got a big brake kit on it. I think it dynoed at 430 at the wheels. It's a pretty solid car. You may have seen it, Mike. It's white.
The white. Yeah, his name.
Panda.
He just got the license plate Panda actually for it on my recommendation. So I'm very excited about that. His name's Nick. He's up here in Lexington. He's probably the only guy with an LC in Lexington, Kentucky that has Boston wheels. But
Shout out to Nick.
I'll drop you some photos on Instagram. I'll show you what it looked like on.
Pretty sure I've chatted with them. Sounds silly, but the LC 500 to me was like an attainable exotic, I guess, to an extent.
Absolutely.
That's the way I see it. So it's it's a car that Lexus brought in 2012 to the Detroit Auto Show, and as a concept, and it just made people's jaws hit the floor. And basically, people were like, "Hey, if you bring this to market, we'll buy it." Right? So that's what happened. So the concept car, if you look at pictures of the concept car 2012, and it was called the LFFC, I believe, and you look at the LC 500, I mean, it's almost identical. It's shocking. It's shocking. So to me, that was the first thing, that it looks just like a concept car. You don't feel like you're driving a regular car. And then you guys are familiar with the 5.0 V8, so it has a great, engine in there, and Lexus kept the sound, and then the interior, is, to me, as good as it gets for their price range, or twice as much. And then it drives really well. It's a new platform, drives really well. And what I love about it is the aftermarket was very enthused about this car. So right away, there was tons of parts, so I modified, I think, a couple of the first ones around, and just a fabulous car. Everywhere I go, people asking questions. I can't even get gas in the car, and which is great. Obviously, I love talking about the car. I love talking about Lexus, so it's fine for me. But you could tell my wife is just like, every time she's just like,
"Can we just get fucking gas in the car?"
Yeah, she's just like I can't believe this, and it's a fabulous car. I wish more people would give it an opportunity. I know people see $100,000 and Lexus, and they might think, yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So that was pre-carbon fenders and all that good stuff, but that was it strapped up on the dyno, and I mean, obviously a head turner of a car. That was his second set. Those were the S1706s, and I think he had HF1s was the other set he had on there prior to that.
Yeah, and for those playing the home game, Kevin just did a screen share and put up a picture of it.
I figured it would show up.
No, the people that are watching right now absolutely are seeing what you're seeing.
Gotcha.
The 98% of people that listen to this auditorily are going, "What the fuck are they talking about?" So there's a picture in front of us of Kevin's buddy's Nick's white LC 500, and I mean, what I love about this car is that I love that Lexus had the balls to basically take a concept car and just put it out, right? Like, because whenever a manufacturer's like, "Oh, like here's a concept car," and people are like, "Oh, we really like it. We really like." I mean, and Cadillac is infamous for this, right? They take this, they do this jaw dropper, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's amazing!" And then by the time it comes out, it ends up being like the ATS, right? Like, it's like, okay, cool, thank you for that, but that's definitely not what I fucking signed up for. The LC is it literally, like, it doesn't look like it should exist in real life. Like, it is a concept car for the road.
No, it's a fantastic car. It has so much presence. I mean, anytime you come up on one, it's like, hell yeah, that's it definitely stands out. It definitely draws eyes. I'm sure with his, I'll try to grab a photo with the carbon fenders and all that stuff, but it's even more of a showstopper at this point.
Yeah, and it actually has carbon construction. There's carbon in the trunk and the door. So when you open the door, you see all the dry carbon, and a lot of people don't know about the car. There's carbon construction as part of the car. And I mean, again, that's one great thing about the LFA. All these people and all the learnings from that car went into a future product. And a lot of people don't know this either. So the LC 500 is made in the same plant the LFA was made in. and a lot of the same people that helped build the LFA build the LC 500. And from my understanding, only 8 people touch each LC 500. So there's a team of 8. I mean, a team of 8. And so you don't have a bunch of people touching your car. It's literally these 8 people are responsible for putting it together.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up.
It's
as
very
far
cool.
as like, I'm glad you brought that up as far as a lot of people touching things, because let's talk about coronavirus. So what's it been like? As far as what you're doing, I imagine the majority of your day to day is phone calls, text messages, emails, Zoom meetings. So how much has it impacted kind of your day to day operation? Other than I imagine that it's probably you're not doing a lot of traveling nowadays.
Yeah, so when I started doing marketing consulting, I've been working from home honestly for the last 2 years. So that part didn't change for me personally. The part obviously is I was able to meet people for lunch, or when I had clients come in or whoever, business partners, we would obviously meet up. That, like you said, the travel is done. That's done right now. And it's been weird to predict. I mean, there's some people down, like some companies are down pretty big, and then some companies are rolling right along that I work with. So it's such I've never seen anything like this where it's like, okay, we're in a recession apparently or whatever, but a lot of things are still keep steamrolling on. So very hard to predict and forecast, what's going on. But obviously a lot of people are concerned about the future, so they're holding back. But I think automobile enthusiasts, we're not the most rational group. We're built on enthusiasm and feeling.
We got a $1,200 stimulus check, so
I was just gonna
$1,400 on a set of wheels.
And we probably just got a tax return right before that. So typically the tax return goes towards it. Now I just got another $1,200 towards a new set of wheels, and here we go. Yeah.
No, I look at Facebook and people are joking about it, but I'm like, you're not joking. You're gonna take.
They're not.
Yeah.
And
that's funny.
I mean, I don't judge people on what they do with their money. I just know that that's one good thing about the automobile business. It is driven on feelings. And if people just feel like, hey, you know what, I'm going to buy some springs or I'm going to buy whatever, and we'll figure it out when we, cross that bridge.
So we are live, by the way, on Facebook still, and it looks like one of your bigger fans is a guy named Ben Webster, and he's been blowing up the chat over there.
Webster. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Ben's with the LC.
No. Ben Webster. Ben, you've met him before. He's from LA. He lives in Austin, Texas right now, so he might be.
So Mike,
shout out to Ben Webster.
Shout out to Ben Webster. Mike, Ben does have a question for you, and before we get too deep into the Rona, because this is going to spiral. He wants to know, do you think Lex is going to keep making more exotic offerings like the LC and LFA? It seems to be a crowded space right
now. What's up, Ben? That's a very good question. I think the future is going to be something like the LF1 Limitless, which was their super SUV, which I think the name LQ has been trademarked. So we all know that, the GLE and all these we talked about it earlier, these coupe SUVs are where it's at. So I'm pretty confident that's something that it might not be a traditional, obviously, sports car, but if it has the L in the name, it's going to, be a flagship of some sort. And I'm assuming definitely some new engines are going to be in it. And there you go. If you want to do something really cool, actually, Google VIP Auto Salon and LQ, and you'll see a modified one we did. We did a Photoshop. Shout out to Clark Ishihara, a VIP Auto Salon. I worked with him many times, and you'll see a modified one. That's kind of what we're feeling, what the potential is. So I think that's what's coming. I mean, there's a lot of rumors of a twin turbo V8 coming, and more F cars at the top of that food chain.
Well, so
I'm trying to pull up that photo. What was it? It was a VIP Auto Salon LQ?
Yeah, Lexus LQ maybe, or LF1 Limitless. If something should pop up with like modified, it's slammed with a kid.
Is it like black with black wheels?
Yeah, it should be that one. Yeah,
I think it's this one. I hope I'm
pull it up here.
Hopefully
we don't get kicked off of YouTube with our millions of dollars of monetization.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see what happens here.
Let's see.
Well,
is it this guy?
Bingo! There you go.
Damn.
So not the greatest photo. The Vossen wheels were the draw on that, because there's quite a bit that comes up when you type that in. But not the greatest photo, but very cool.
Yeah, it's
Very cool.
something that was visualized by him, and we talked about which wheels to put it on at the time. And these photos, we made a few photoshops, and they went viral around. And I mean, to this day, you see a lot of dealers excited. And you have to be smart. Lexus is obviously one of the smartest companies around. They know this is where the market's going, and it's going to be a very compelling product, and I'm excited for it.
And shout outs to LexusEnthusiast.com, right?
Yeah, Kevin.
Where this photo is hosted. Hell yeah.
Great guy.
Hell yeah.
So what's your take on, so Lexus hasn't done much with electrification yet, right? Is that an accurate statement?
They've done a lot of hybrids.
Right.
Yeah.
But as far as a pure electric, has there been a Lexus electric yet or no?
There is one now. It's in Europe. They have a Lexus UX that is the first electric.
Oh,
BEV.
cool.
Yeah, it's in Europe. A lot of the growth. So traditionally, where Lexus was very American centric, they're very worldwide centric now. So, and obviously, I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for them or anybody else. But
Off the record.
they sell about 300,000 cars in the U.S. And in the past, worldwide sales were 400. Next thing you know, worldwide sales are 500,000. In the U.S., they still at 300. And now worldwide sales, I think last year they passed 700,000.
Wow.
So you're looking at a situation where sales have exploded overseas, and I think the USA, I don't even think this is a luxury thing. I just think the luxury market is pretty tapped out where we are. And so they went with the hybrid strategy, which has been fantastic. They've sold over 1 million hybrids. It's been fantastic here in America. But in Europe, especially with a lot of the diesel stuff that was happening, people kind of really started giving hybrids a chance. And obviously, we all know about Tesla's still kind of like a dirty word. Like, people don't really want to acknowledge the impact they've had. Because when you think of cars that impact the LS or A8, you think S-Class. But that Model S is in there just disrupting this market,
Right.
And you got people spending $100,000 to $140,000 that are buying a Tesla instead of buying a traditional luxury brand. So I say all that to say, the Lexus UX was electrified, and I'm expecting a lot more in the future. I think they made a statement that by 2025, in one way, shape, or another, like every model is going to offer some sort of BEV or something.
Got it.
But I do want to relate.
What's your take on it? Just period. Like what experiences have you had with electric, and what's your opinion on them?
What the game changer for me was, I went to the Essen Auto Show, and we did at the time a Boston booth, and Novatech. We did Boston made basically it was for Novatech. That's a partnership that I helped put together, and we drove their Tesla model, the Novatech Tesla Model X, from basically Essen down to Stettin, Germany, where they're located, which is about an hour and a half south of Munich. This is normally like a 5-hour drive, from my understanding, 6-hour drive. But for whatever reason, it was fucking snowing in Germany, like really bad. So we're in an electric car in the snow, and we got to drive like 5-6 hours. And actually, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. And honestly, the car was. So I'm watching Maurice put in the nav, where the supercharger stations are. And he's telling me, hey, okay, I'm averaging the miles out. We're going to make it to the supercharger. We'll be hungry by then anyway. We'll put on a supercharger for 20, 30 minutes or whatever, get some food. And then by the time we finish, there you go. Beautiful. We'll hop back in the car. And this is a long distance trek, right? This isn't, I'm having a little range anxiety. I'll be honest. I'm like, wow, this is a little, man, that thing was flawless. It was flawless in the snow. It was flawless driving. The thing is so fast, when you need to pass somebody. Tons of room. We had 4 wheels and tires in the car. Our baggage was in the front. It has a pretty big frunk in the front. So we had all our baggage in the front. And it was comfy. It has that big windshield in the front. You're looking like you're in the UFO. It really blew me away. So we stopped. The first stop was there in Germany. The station was next to a KFC. So we had KFC.
That's KFC. Holla.
Which is way better than
Wait. What's the KFC better in Germany or better in the South?
Absolutely better. And the gravy, like, you can buy gravy separately. Like, it's crazy. Like, Cartman would lose his mind in Germany.
You know where it's supposed to be the best? Is Jamaica. Apparently, all the locals tell me, like, literally there's a line out the door around the building until they sell out. It's insane.
Same with the Bahamas, actually. When I was in the Bahamas, we were heading out to like our private island or whatever, like, which by the way is like the douchiest thing you could possibly say. But we were like, off the cruise, and we're putting along. I'm like, there's fucking KFC right there. Like I thought it was a joke. And like, I'm not going to do the accent.
Don't do it. Please,
I'm
please
not
don't
going
do
to.
it. Yeah,
No, I'm not going
to.
to. But in his Bahamanian accent, he's like, oh yeah, like people love it here. Like, so shout out to KFC.
They've got their own blend of herbs and spices down there, man. It's all good.
They're really good. No, it was really impressive to me. The second stop was at McDonald's right outside Munich. We charged for another 20-30 minutes. We were hungry by the end of the game, and then we got to the hotel. Obviously, you plug it in, and Tesla fans, from my understanding, I work with a lot of them. One of the guys I worked with really early on was Signature Customs out in Florida, and he already bagged his Model Y, and I mean he's just at the forefront of what they're doing, And then when I saw Novatech,
could you try again?
Sorry, Siri.
Sorry.
Oh, Siri making a guest appearance. What's up, Siri?
Dude, we can't afford the licensing. We can't. That was not Siri.
You're looking at Rolls-Royce and McLaren, Lamborghini, Ferrari, Maserati, these brands, and it has a Tesla program for the Model X and the Model S and the Model 3. It just let me know, like, wow, like this is something that's not. This is the future, which has obviously influenced every brand. Yeah, I mean, Audi has e-tron now, right? And ESQ, I think, is it for Mercedes? And
yep, the Porsche Taycan, of course, which we had the pleasure of driving, which was
yes,
great. I'm on the Novatech website right now, and it's 4 Ferrari, 4 Lamborghini, 4 McLaren, 4 Maserati, 4 Rolls-Royce, 4 Tesla.
Yeah,
so there you go. That's the playing field it's in now. It's its own commodity.
And they're hardcore. It's a hardcore group, whether you like it or not. A lot of them are Tesla or nothing. It can be a little irritating, but a lot of those guys, they mod their cars. Like if you're looking for a place in the aftermarket, and we're in the aftermarket, and a lot of times things go down. They don't make an Accord coupe anymore, right? I mean, Honda doesn't make really any two-doors anymore. You just think about that. You don't think about it, but when you think about it, it affects a lot of sales and what companies have traditionally went after. But here's this Tesla Model 3 and S and X, and people are, as soon as they get them, I want to wrap it, I want to put wheels on it, I want to modify it, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic for the industry.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, I personally think like the Model 3s, like I don't love them factory, but I think when you put the right, lip kit on it and a nice set of wheels on them and lower them a little bit, they look fantastic and they drive great. I mean, I think it's a good platform. I know there's not, well, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's much performance you can do to it outside of what you get from the factory.
Well, no, but I mean, dude, look at when we were at SEMA and we went to the what is it, the interstate. Who was the
Optima challenge?
Yeah.
The Optima battery challenge. Yeah.
The ultimate street car challenge. And like, there's a handful of, I mean, essentially unmodified, right? Like it's probably weight reduction and sticky tires essentially, and maybe some
it's
suspension
probably
stuff.
Just sticky tires is my guess. I mean, they rip at autocross because it's low center of gravity. It's instant torque. I mean, it's everything you want for autocross. Put a set of RE71s on it and you're golden. I mean, you're probably going to take most of the cars out there that day.
Yeah, no, they are, and again, they're disruptors. He said, he's a disruptor because, say you buy a Hellcat, which makes 700 horsepower or whatever, and then they're like, what comes out? The Helifon or whatever, or it was the SRT and then the Hellcat. Well, you got to buy a whole new car. With Tesla, right, it's like, oh no, we updated the software. It's faster now.
Yeah, like the Model S keeps getting faster. Like it'll look like Elon will tweet and they'll be like, oh, your Model S just went from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds to 2.7 seconds now, or whatever it is.
Better range, and you're like, wow, I just woke up in the morning and wow, my car was updated. So as technology has driven everything from refrigerators, to cars, I think that's another change that people are seeing. I mean, the Model S has been out since 2011, I think 2012.
Forever, yeah. It's
right about
due for a real. I mean, it's gotten nothing other than like a new front bumper, basically. It's
bunch of over-the-air updates.
Yep, OTA.
Yeah,
OTA. But to me, the big thing is pushing the OEMs to do something. I mean, like we got to experience the Taycan, which was insane. Like when I was at the Porsche dealership today, I grabbed a Cayman GTS 6-speed, or I'm sorry, a Cayman S 6-speed to cruise around. And since I can't sit at the dealership for a couple hours, they had offered me to take the Taycan out. We had already taken that one, so I figured I'll do something different. But we talked about it. I mean, just they're sold out of those cars for the most part. It's crazy. And even with like the 4S coming out now, the base coming out, the rear wheel drive one, like the allocations just aren't there. Like people are buying them, and even with Porsche's range being 200 miles quoted, we're seeing more like 300, and that's great. So I love that it's pushing the OEMs to do something cool. And to me, like the biggest thing was the Taycan still felt like a Porsche, and that's amazing that they're able to pull that off.
But I mean, go ahead.
No, sorry.
No, what I was going to say is that Mike, I own a detailing business, and we do a lot of Teslas. And so we do a lot of pickup and delivery. So I end up driving everything all the time, probably once or twice a week I'm in a Tesla. And the thing that people don't seem to grasp as far as how far ahead of the game Tesla is than really anyone else in the industry is in like this, air quotes, self-driving thing. Like the autonomous or close, almost autonomous driving, whatever, it's so leaps and bounds better in a Tesla. Like I literally have a video, I'll probably post it on our Instagram, of the car driving itself. I mean, both Kevin and I have Nissans that have purportedly
pilot assist.
Yeah, the same technology, but like it's amazing.
It's
not. It's fucking not. And I've driven my dad's S560 that has the same, supposedly the same technology, and it ain't the same. Tesla is playing on a whole different playing field in that, every other car manufacturer, it's a legacy car manufacturer, they go, oh, well, we couldn't possibly do that because technically every time they push an OTA update, an over-the-air update, it's a whole different car, right? So like how does the federal government, as far as their safety regulations and stuff like that, when they've completely updated the car, when Volkswagen or whoever like changes the way that the car is running as far as the computers go. Oh, I'm lagging probably.
No, good on my end.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it doesn't show me anything. I don't know what just happened.
Cool. Are you still here, Mike?
I can hear you guys, but my screen is.
We can see you just fine.
It might be,
you might give it a second. But
okay.
Now you're stuck on a dumb looking face. Oh, there you go. You're
first
back.
world problems with Zoom. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the Corona. But yeah, let's get back to coronavirus. Actually, let's not get too deep down the Tesla rabbit hole here. But
the Tesla rabbit hole. Yeah.
Yep. Very much. So what do you like? How far out are you kind of crossing things off the calendar? I know that Monterey Car Week just got canceled. Obviously at the kind of the other end of the schedule is something like SEMA, which is, late October, early November. How far out are you like, okay, well, May's fucked, June's fucked. So like, how far out are you just assuming that you're not going to be able to do anything about it?
So it's a rather complicated question being in marketing because shows and events have been something that everybody from OEMs down to smaller companies have struggled with in regards to return of investment. So coronavirus has given everybody a really true reason to sit and reset and say, hey, is this really worth it? Or do we need to curate the experience ourselves, or do we just leave and not come back? So in other words, yeah, it's because of the coronavirus, but it's also because of other factors, and the coronavirus just happened to be the catalyst to really make people have that change.
The event experiential life, or the health was already sick anyways, and the coronavirus might just be the thing that kicks it.
Exactly. The Frankfurt show, I think, had moved to Munich, which is just unheard of because of attendance issues. We know Detroit moved their show from January to June, which is obviously canceled this year because of the virus. And even Formula D, shout out to those guys out there. I usually go hang out with RSR and bring an LC out or something on their coilovers. And it comes to Atlanta in May, and that's canceled. Obviously, the one in LA was canceled in Long Beach. And they're starting their season in July. And it's kind of hard to predict not just them, but any event, right? Okay, if you're open, do we social distance? Like, what do we do exactly, right? Is there going to be testing at the door? How does this work? And if you're a vendor, it's obviously super important to touch people. And if you can't touch them and sell your products there, then people are going to start pulling out. Like, well, that's the reason why I go. I can't predict it. I'm going to say, honestly, until we know when we can get testing and move forward on that, I would say, honestly, August, September is what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. Especially, I mean, the scary thing is that, this second spike they're talking about. But dude, I mean, honestly, I think it's an interesting point you bring up that people are, you look at industries that are generally healthy and they'll be fine. Like, there's going to be a lot of pain. This is going to suck. Let's not twist my words here. There's no two ways about it. This is going to suck. But you take things like, like you talked about SEMA earlier, things that require that are in an industry that require face-to-face interaction in order to really make an impact, and car shows and other experiential things. The ability to sell is, like you said, it's like you have to physically, metaphorically touch somebody, right? So even if everything is pretty much going back to normal, until there is a scenario that, like, testing or whatever it's going to be, that we can just say, okay, cool, like let's go back to being close to each other. You have scenarios in, I know Formula Drift, like you mentioned earlier, is planning on, we had Jared on, was it last weekend?
Yeah,
2 weeks, 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, we had Jared Anda on a week or two ago, and he was talking, that they are hoping to start their season 4th of July weekend in Atlanta, which, by the way, I told him that if that's happening, I promised
we
him
will be there.
So
absolutely.
We'll see you there.
Wait.
You coming or what?
Everybody, when they come see me, they gain like 15 pounds by the time they leave me.
Oh, I don't know if I can handle it. That ain't good.
Oh, I'm ready for it.
That
Bring it
good.
on.
Oh man, I'm just gonna use that as my excuse from now on. Yeah, I visited Mike.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, it's not the first time.
Yeah, no, I just I'm concerned for the industry, in that, like, I think that I don't think it's going to be a lack of sales. I think we just might run into where our ability to be excited about this stuff, really comes down to, like, the Instagram thing just gets, there's no love there, right? Like, it's everybody shouts exactly the same. You can only get so many likes, and it doesn't make you feel better at night, right? Like the Garage.Chronicles, the idea that this podcast is built around is ending up in a garage with somebody after a track day or after a car show, or after
hanging out at Cars and Coffee with your friends after you've gone around and looked and talked to other people about their cars and their builds and stuff like that.
Well, it's important. It's important, it's important for us to not forget that we are human, right? And to show each other empathy and be helpful to one, and support people. So it might take some courage to say, you know what, I am going to go to this event and support them, because we don't think about a lot of the, you see the news and they talk about, I don't know, Macy's laid off people, or KFC laid off people, whoever, right? But you don't think of people that are event planners, and they're doing events and shows, and not only that, people that support the event. So there's concession stands, there's people that have to clean up after the event, there's people that have to put up lights at the event. So you're talking about a mass exodus of people that might be, 1099 people, entrepreneurs. They're not really, they're small business owners that are just in limbo right now. And my heart goes out to them, because I hope we have a newfound appreciation for people that take the time to host events and, sit down with them and have face-to-faces with people and really understand, we're human, and this is part of what life is. Being at home for 2 months, and it's really made me appreciate, man, I can't wait to go hang out with people and just hang out and have a beer and just talk and touch.
Yep.
And I feel the exact same way, man. Like, literally, I'm like, as soon as I can, I'd love to, but I obviously there's a whole lot more going on around this.
All the fantasy with the Matrix and all these movies where computers take over, or people try to act, they're only on social media. They need to come out. We can kind of segue into like kind of get into automotive industry, and a handshake and talking to people and making eye contact still goes a much longer way than sending somebody an email or direct message.
If it wasn't for that, Mike, if it wasn't for like an in-person event where I just happened to go out on, I think it was Super Bowl Sunday, to an Audi club drive that I saw on Audi Zine back in 2006, this wouldn't be happening right now. That's where I met Brandon. I shook his hand physically and we became friends like pretty quick there. And that's why this is all going on, 13, 14 years later, whatever it is.
And we don't think of auto enthusiasts as a sport. I mean, Formula D kind of see that as a sport, but as a whole, automobile enthusiasts, it's no different in the NBA or the NFL or something of that stature. People are competing for trophies. They're going to events. It is a sporting event, right? So we like to be around each other. We like to mingle. We like to shoot the shit. We like to just get out the house. That is part of being an automobile enthusiast, right? Getting in your car and just playing your music, or maybe turning the music off and you're going for a drive to your favorite little mountain or your favorite little spot. That is part of who we are. And it's really tough for all of us, that part of our lives is taken out. And that's such a huge part of our life. And I'm hoping when we get back, we're a little friendlier, we're a little nicer to each other. And we appreciate events and shows, and we go out and support it.
Yeah, like the days before the gram, right? Going back to the old days, like when it was forums, when it couldn't be in like instant post and all that type of stuff.
But even sweeter, right? Like, because like there's gonna be this like moment of euphoria, and it's like I'm so excited for it. It is what I look forward to most, but also what scares me most is like the thought of like going out, right? Because like on one hand, you have like that we're gonna be so pumped, I'm like a doer, right? Like I can't fucking sit still. Like I like, okay, let's go do this, let's do that, let's do that. And I'm always like, hey guys, you want to go do this? And I was like, I don't want to. But now everyone's gonna be like, oh yeah, like sure, let's go to a Blue Jackets game. And then on the way, why don't we stop and pick up your dry cleaning? That sounds fun. Why don't we go on the way to dry cleaning? If we stop off and we can run some of your errands, that sounds great. Let's do that. We're gonna be together. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Like that obviously over time will wear off. But what scares me about it is that like because people are so like there's so much pent up. Like I want to do this, right? Like it's not like there's going to be like this moment where like all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey guys, virus is gone, no big deal. Like this cure is not gonna like there's not gonna be a vaccination for a year or so, right? And even still, it's gonna take a long time for how many billion people in the world, or 350 million people in this country, to get a vaccination where everybody's like fine. So like we are a long time from this not being a problem. So they're going to say, okay, guys, country's open. And everyone's going to be like, all right, fuck yeah, let's go. Like I see everybody's like, hey, we're going to have the biggest meet. Everyone's going to hang out. We're going to like, okay, well, that's like, we got to be slow and be distant. Like I don't know that people are going to be able to handle that. Like the urge to be together with the knowledge that like, that's not what we need to be doing at that moment.
Yeah, it's difficult. We still, I talked about it earlier, it seems all circular, the information we're getting. So I'm hoping within the next, couple months, we really can kind of get a handle on what behaviors limit, spreading of the virus. And I mean, obviously we kind of do, but people are still out doing their thing, right? So we really just need to see, what happens. And maybe it is a situation where it's like, hey, everybody. I mean, if you read history, I'm a history buff, believe it or not. So if you read history, we seem to be in the Amazon generation where people think this is a pandemic, okay? This isn't like getting scratched on the knee. This is literally a pandemic. It's something that happens maybe once every few, 100 years or whatever you call it. And if you look through our history, it takes a good year, 2 years, 3 years out of it. So I'm seeing people posting like, I want to get out the house. And I'm like, yeah, this is going to take a little while, believe it or not. And it just happened to be whatever timing it is. It's during our time, and we have to manage it and handle it. And, it's a little disappointing to think, look, we have internet at home. We have fridges that have never been bigger.
We got fucking Netflix.
We got everything. We got Disney Plus. We got Xbox. We got everything, literally.
Free Pornhub, what?
And people are losing their minds. And I'm sitting here like, y'all be talking all that shit on the internet of how tough you are. And man, when shit actually hit the fan, you couldn't last literally a month with internet.
Just stay inside. It's not that hard.
Yeah, it's not that big a deal. Just hang out at home and play with
I'm
all your
not talking
internet
about
toys.
those that are on the front line. Obviously, much love to those people that they have to do their jobs. I'm talking about people that the front line is asking us to stay your ass at home. And it's like, wow, the front line is asking us to stay home and you can't do it. You want to do whatever you're thinking you're doing it. Look, everybody's entitled to your opinion. I understand that. But sometimes as a society, maybe we need to think about others and say, hey, you know what? If this is for the greater good of everybody in this country, let's all go down this path. Let's hang out at home for a couple of months and really beat this thing out and accelerate it. Because obviously because of technology, et cetera, they're working on cures or whatever and treatments. And so hopefully instead of it being a year, 2-3 years, we can kind of handle this in 6 months or whatever. But yeah, it's kind of amazing. And we have to kind of blame our group, car enthusiasts, because sometimes we rebel for no reason. And we're driving around and causing all sorts of shit and not social distancing. And it's like, hey guys, let's kind of chill.
Yeah, no, and I think like there's two beautiful things that are happening in the coronavirus era. Number one is the mask, right? Because like the mask is this beautiful symbol of like, listen, I know this isn't doing anything to protect me. This is for you. I'm wearing this mask because I know that if I have it, I can prevent you from getting it potentially. And if everybody just thinks of somebody else, then we're all in good shape, right? If everybody scratches the back of everybody else, everybody gets their back scratched. The other thing is that, like, listen, when else in our lives are we going to have a couple months to just chill? Right? Like I got news for you. 2021, 2020, whenever the green light turns on again, shit's not slowing down. Right? We're not gonna, it's going to be off to the races, and it's never going to slow down for the rest of our fucking lives till the moment that we're in the dirt. It's going to be a rat race for the rest of the time. So maybe, listen, I'm 35. I don't know how old you are. Kevin's a little younger. You know, maybe
43. I don't even know.
Yeah, whatever. Somewhere in there.
It's all the same shit. Yeah, exactly.
How many people have an opportunity in their 30s or 40s or whatever to, like, you know, Kevin's in his beautiful home. I'm at work right now, but I'll go home to my house and you're at your home. And, you know, where we can be like, we have our loved ones. We can just be like, okay, like I don't have to go to the office today. Right? Listen, I miss car shows, but there's also like you know, where there's fucking 4 events on Saturday and 2 events on Sunday. It's like, oh, I don't know, you know, like the cars and coffee, or I want to go, you know, like our ability to just chill. Like it's okay. You know, you know, to take this opportunity and let it absorb and be present and be with your family and not have, you know, like I get Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm not working. And like Tuesday and Thursday, usually, I don't know what Tuesday and Thursday fucking looks like. Like I can go for a walk on a Tuesday. What?
Absolutely. You know, I have a 5-year-old, and luckily he's into cars, and you know, my wife's working from home, and like you said, it's been an opportunity for, you know, me to hang out with my family more than normal, and for my wife especially, she doesn't work from home, so you know, we get to you know, rekindle things and you know, spend a little more time, because yeah, like you said, the rat race, sometimes you get caught in it, and next thing you know, 5 years have passed or 6 years have passed. You're like, wow, where did the time go? You know, and no, that's a very thought-provoking comment.
Yeah, well, I think I would like to give you an opportunity to plug away. I think we're towards the end of this thing. I think I want anything that you want to plug and make sure that people are following you. Why don't you know, give people your Instagram and stuff like that, dude? By the way, you have like fucking 50,000 followers.
Yeah.
How does that even happen?
Yeah, you know, honestly, when Instagram first took off, we were pretty much at the front at Boston on top of that. So back then, really, when you tagged each other, and man, it really helped grow the accounts. And trust me, everything I do is organic. I don't buy followers. I don't do fake anything. So it's all organic, and it's really helped. So, you know, social media, it's really helped me reach a lot of people I normally wouldn't be in contact with. And when I travel, strangers reach out and they make recommendations, and you know, it's a great thing. You know, social media and the internet, you know, when used properly, it's a beautiful thing in the way it brings people together.
So you are Mike MIKE underscore Forsythe. That's FORSYTHE on the gram. Are you on? Like, is the gram like your social media of choice, or?
Yeah, I post there. My IG stories are probably more active than my actual posts. My Facebook is actually, I think, if you go search on the Mike Forsythe, I think my name's one of the first names on there, and that's pretty active. There's a ton of people on there that are in the industry, which is cool. A lot of Lexus heads as well. So it's kind of a cool little spot that we all hang out on, I guess, to an extent. And then I have a YouTube page. So if you do youtube.com/Mike Forsythe, that's me as well. And the Twitter is not really twitting right now, and that's usually it. Yeah, I would
a lot
say
of twitting.
Like I got to share this thing just because I was on the Novitec site, and this is absolutely ridiculous. But this Rolls-Royce Dawn overdose concept, or this overdose build, I guess. I mean, this thing's out of control. So shout out to Novitec and what they're doing. Really cool stuff. I mean, it's just.
That is the wide body. It's a wide body Rolls Royce. So the rear fenders and the front fenders is actually all molded in on, new fenders. I mean, and I've been very fortunate to work with them the last few years. Shout out to Albert, Novitec North America, and then Maurice, and obviously the founder, Wolfgang. They just celebrated actually the 30th anniversary. They were pretty quiet about it. What they're just so humble, which is amazing. Like, for people to deal with these cars on a daily basis, and they are the nicest, most humblest people on the planet, which makes you want to help promote the product and do what it takes. But yeah, I actually seen that car in person. It was stunning. I never really was a Rolls Royce person. I always felt like it was like a really rich old person's car. But when I saw that, I was like, man, I could drive that.
So, what would somebody Google? Would it be like Rolls Royce overdose Novitec if they were gonna?
Yes,
it's called it's the Dawn overdose is where you can find it. So, novitecgroup.com.
Yeah. For those playing the home game, make sure to look that up. It is ridiculous looking.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right. Very cool. Well, we're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna let you get back. It's now after 11 o'clock local time. All three of us are in the Eastern time zone. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So make sure you're following Mike on the gram. Like I said, it's Mike _Forsythe, FORSYTHE. Also, make sure you're following us on the gram. It's Garage.Chronicles. And then also same with, make sure you look up our YouTube page. If you go to GarageChronicles.com, there's a link to our YouTube page. You can subscribe there. And I promise, I know we weren't able to get us live up on Facebook today, or I'm sorry, on YouTube today, but we were on Facebook. We're going to work on getting that tomorrow. By the way, tomorrow we do have we have both George and Bill from Audi Club North America are going to be in with us. So it's going to be kind of like a Foursquare situation. Looking forward to having them in here. So if obviously if you're listening to us on the podcast, both of them are going to be uploaded on Thursday. Otherwise, tomorrow, Wednesday, the 29th, we'll be live again at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook for sure, and hopefully on YouTube. So other than that, on behalf of myself, I wanted to thank you guys so much for listening. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. You're always a hoot to follow. I appreciate it so much. And Kevin, why don't you bring us home?
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Great talking to you. I love a fellow Lexus enthusiast, of course, and we'd love to have you back. So to everybody else out there, have a good night wherever you are and wherever you may be.
Wash your fucking hands.
Don't forget. Thanks, guys. See you later.